What is going on, everybody? We've got a lot to get into today. The first thing I want to say before I start this is the people at the store did not let me record my game footage. That's not really a huge deal because there's already a ton of game footage on YouTube. I think what's more important is my opinions on it and what I have to say, because at least that's something that somebody else on YouTube couldn't do. They couldn't say my personal opinions. So let's get right into this. We're going to do 3 different categories today. We're going to do first the event, second the good, third the bad. Keep watching. So let's get into how the event went for me. The first thing that happened was I got on my subway train. I'm so glad I got into an earlier one, because if I got into a later one, I would not have been able to go to this event. My train got delayed. It was sitting on the track for about 10 minutes before it started going again. And it said on the card, which I have right here, that if you showed up 5 minutes late, you were done. You couldn't go. Now, that is a little bit of a stretch. You know, you could show up a little later than that, which I ended up actually doing after panicking in Rockefeller Center for a while. Basically, that sucked. But once I actually got into the store, I just had to go upstairs. They asked to see my pass and my ID, and I went, and the first thing we did was we sat in our seats and watched the same trailer that we've all in the store have watched like 2,000 times already. It's the same one from E3, nothing extended or anything like that. And then we got moved over to a station. The first demo was a 15-minute demo where you were just placed in the middle of the plateau. You could go anywhere you want on the map. So what I did for this was I took one spot on the map. I decided to place a marker and then see how long it would take for me to get there. I will get into that into more detail under the good, because that was definitely, there was a good thing about that. The second demo was a 25-minute demo where you got to start from the beginning of the game and do the stuff that you saw them doing when they started playing yesterday at Treehouse. That was pretty cool too. Like, you start the game, there are tutorials and stuff, but it's not really like the traditional tutorial. Thank God it's not like Twilight Princess. That tutorial was too long and drawn out. It's a very easy tutorial to get through if you've played the game already and you just want to get right back into the game. So that's what we did on that. After that was over, I pretty much got up and left. I got some memorabilia. The first thing is that I'm definitely going to keep is I still have my pass. They put some stickers on it to kind of prove that I, went to both things. The second thing they gave me, and I haven't taken these out of the plastic yet, which I'm going to do right now in front of the camera. They gave us this cool little emblem here. It says The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on the back. We got ourselves a Sheikah eye on the other side. Solid metal, feels really cool. The second thing they gave us was a poster version of that picture that was originally leaked on Amazon. It's actually the extended version that Nintendo tweeted out the next day. This one's a little different because it has the Legend of Zelda experience on the bottom there to kind of prove that you got this at this event. So this poster is going to be something I'm definitely framing and keeping for a very long time. The third thing they gave us was this shirt. It has the logo of the game, and on the back of the shirt it has a Sheikah eye. All the people at the store were wearing polo shirt versions of this, so this is cool. I have a feeling this is going to be an exclusive to the event t-shirt. So yeah, really cool memorabilia. I'm glad I went. It was a lot of fun. So let's get into the good. So these are some things about the game or the demo that I played that I think are really, really good. The one thing that's really good is that this game is definitely going to push whatever hardware it's on. It definitely pushes the Wii U's hardware like crazy, and if the NX ends up being as powerful as it's rumored to be, like 4 teraflops and up, this game's going to be absolute just pure eye candy. Like, if this game was released back in 2007 or so, if, Nintendo went with the traditional HD console, it would have been just amazing for back in the day. So it's very, very pretty for the system it's on. Another thing is that the world is very, very large. Like, it's very large. I told you earlier how I put a marker on the map. So what I did was I basically took an area about like halfway across the plateau. I started off on one side and then I walked to the other side, not including climbing mountains, which was a whole thing in itself. It took me a good 5 minutes just to walk that tiny, tiny little distance that I put on that map there. It looks like nothing. It looks like you should just walk there in 20 seconds or so, but no, it was a pretty big walk. And on the way, there was a lot of stuff. I went past many enemy encampments, I went past a small village, and then I went past a wall that was kind of on the left, a huge ruined brick wall. Really, really cool. Another thing that's really good is not only is it large, but unlike other open world games where you can just kind of go places and, oh, you know, this area's kind of steep, so I might go around the other way. There's a lot of thinking about how you have to get to places. You can't just like walk to an area, climb up a mountain, and boom, you're in your spot. What you have to do is you have to plan out your route, at least when you're a beginner to the game. When you get better, obviously this will be a moot point, but you'll have to, if you come past a certain type of enemy or an enemy camp, you have to see if you need to sneak around it or if you can just fight them off. And the biggest thing is, if you're approaching a cliff, you have to make sure you have enough stamina to climb it. I actually fell to my death once because I got onto a cliff not knowing the stamina drain that was at the level I was given, and I climbed about halfway up, jumped, lost all my stamina, fell off the cliff, and died. So I knew the next time when I was going up that I would have to stop on these. They look like you couldn't stop on them, but Link was actually able to get his footing. These little inclines, but these little things jutting out. So I stopped there, got my energy, and kept climbing back up. And then I finally got to the top of that cliff, which is where I put my marker. That's more thinking than I've had to do. Like, I gave the example earlier of just walking around at a certain spot, like in Skyrim, for example. If you see a mountain that you can't normally get to, or there's guards blocking, usually you can just find another way in and just get in. There's not really much thought put into actually wandering around on that map. That game's got other things that, you know, go into that. But because this game's very much about survival and exploration, it makes sense that they make it a smart way to explore. This is not something I've seen in any other game, really, or at least any other mainstream adventure game yet, and that's really, really cool that Nintendo's actually doing that. Another thing that's really cool is that the controls are very, very solid. This is to be expected from a Nintendo game, although it's sometimes can not ring true. For example, Star Fox Zero. Very solid controls. The jumping and stuff felt natural. Within seconds of playing, I already knew how to jump and latch onto a cliff and start climbing. Very easy to get into, and easy to learn. You know, it's not hard to learn how to play the game, and that's really good. For the actual like story part, what I really liked was how the game doesn't hold your hand. The entire game is going to be presented to you in a way that you have to explore, or you have to find out everything yourself. That disembodied voice in the beginning actually says, try to remember you've been asleep for 100 years. So you are going to have to uncover the whole storyline as you go through villages, which are going to be interconnected with the story. As you go through shrines, which are the mini dungeons, which there's over 100 all over the map. That's really cool. That's like awesome. I really like that. When you arrive to a certain area, you have to find a tower, put your Sheikah slate, that's what the book is. You put the Sheikah slate inside like the base of the tower grows, and then you get to see the location of every shrine in the area, and those can be fast travel points when you finish them, so that's really cool. So let's get into the bad. There were a few bad things, unfortunately. So there were a few iffy things about this demo that I hope to God, are changed by the time the game is released in March 2017. That's a while away. But at the same time, this game has been being developed for a long-ass time, so this stuff shouldn't be a problem anymore. The number one thing that bugged me about this game was frame rate issues. If you looked in a certain spot, this was rare, but if you looked in a certain spot, you would get a frame rate drop. If you fought an enemy in a certain way, and there was a group of enemies, frame rate drop. A lot of people are going to be like,
"Oh, Jake, don't complain about frame rate drops. They're not a huge deal. Stop being a PC Master Race graphics whore."
Here's the thing. Frame rate drops affect gameplay. So if you get a huge frame rate drop while you're fighting an enemy that requires precise fighting, that could be the difference between life and death right there. You could lose your life in the game just because of a frame rate drop. I'm hoping that that's polished out by the time March comes along. And that, by the way, is one reason why I would pick up the NX version over the Wii U version. Because if that system's more powerful, then it won't have those frame rate issues, which would be nice. The second thing is this is related to that. It's only in 720p, so if you're playing on like a big HD TV, you see jagged edges everywhere. So the game's gorgeous, but it definitely has its noticeable visual artifacts. The water looks okay. There's some smudgy textures, which isn't a huge deal because it's a cartoony art style anyway, so it's not a big, that's not a big deal. but the jagged edges everywhere definitely is pretty bothersome. The next thing I have to say is that the game is not 100% voice acted. There's voice acting in important parts, like with the wake up Link, the voice you hear in the beginning, and I imagine like bosses or certain important bosses, plot points might be voice acted, but that old man you encounter in the beginning of the game wasn't voice acted. That was all text. Now it's possible that they're still recording the voices. I doubt it though. I definitely think that that's not going to be voice acted. It's going to be partially voice acted, which is kind of lame, but it's steps in the right direction, and it's not that huge of a deal. I'm not going to fret about it. Another thing about the game, and this is actually something that I'm pretty sure Eiji Aonuma had the demo this way on purpose so that people would focus on certain things, is on the starting plateau area, which is a... By the way, this should have been put in the good part of the video, but the starting plateau is a ridiculously huge area, and that is actually only like 1 or 2% of the map. I zoomed out on the map and the thing was like a little tiny region, and there was just so much more on the map to explore, and I don't even think that was the entire map laid out on there. I have a feeling there's other spots. It just seemed like it was laid out that way. But my point is, the starting plateau is a pretty big area, and I encountered one tiny little village and quite a few encampments. Now the landscape was really cool. There was a lot going on in this only 1 or 2% of the map, but I feel like it should have been populated more. There should have been more wildlife. There should have been a few villages in that kind of area. What I think is going on is either this starting area is purposely sparse so that you can just kind of get your footing into the game, not be too overwhelmed to start with, or they designed the demo that way so that we would focus on certain things. So that's okay. Another thing is, in the main area, there is no background music whatsoever. This is another thing that I'm pretty sure is probably going to change by the time the game's fully released, and I think Aonuma said something about this too, but there was no background music playing once you got past the beginning tutorial stage or like past the cutscenes or something. It's all just nature sounds when you're outside. I think we're going to get, in the vein of Skyrim, we're going to get kind of like outdoor exploration tunes, and oh my goodness, would that be awesome if they had tunes like Skyrim. I'm very critical of that game, but that game has just a ridiculously amazing soundtrack, and the exploration tunes are awesome. So that'd be nice to see. Those are the only gripes I have about the game, and this is all stuff that could be fixed by the time it comes out, or fixed on the NX version if the NX is what we want it to be. So it's not too bad. So overall, what did I think about this demo? Here's what I think. Hands down, far and away, this is going to be the best Zelda game ever created. It takes so many proper inspirations from Western-style games and Western RPGs. Aonuma was not lying when he said that this game was going to be a very Western sauce-style game, or Western ingredients, whatever he said. I love that. I love that he took inspiration off of games. Like, how can you look at that picture of Link climbing the mountains and not think Skyrim? How could you look at those blades of grass, or riding the horses and dodging the trees, and not think Witcher 3? Like, he probably didn't take inspiration off of Witcher 3 because he was doing stuff before that game was even released. But Witcher 3 wasn't the first game to do those things. It's really, really cool. And I've said it's really, really cool a million times already, but that's pretty much what sums this up. This game's amazing. Even in the short, 35 to 40 minutes I got to actually play the game, I really did get a good idea of just how good this game is going to be. And I probably experienced maybe like less than 0.5% of the game's overall content by doing all the stuff I did. That is awesome, and I'm very much looking forward to this game being released. Alright, that'll do it today. I'm so glad that I got to go to this event. It was awesome. I will do stuff like this in the future if the game piques my interest, or if there's some sort of like, I don't know, Nintendo NX release thing, if the system ends up being worth buying. Or if, it's for another game in another system. I don't care. If it's a good game, I'll go to the event. But this is really cool. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.